you hear me? Yeah? Okay, so good morning. Thank you for being here on a Saturday morning. Not used to this format. Strange. I'm here to talk about continuous integration. This is a big buzzword that comes with the evolution of Agile. And I want to talk to you about what it is, how we in Farfetch interpreted it, and how we are implemented it, and the challenges we faced when we tried to have it implemented on our processes. So basically, a little background. We work in Agile environment. We have vertical teams that are teams that are responsible to deliver an experience and are not focused on one project only, but make the changes on all the projects that the experience need to all the changes that needed to be done and on all the projects for the experience to be delivered. We had very few automated tests because our focus was to deliver more features, and the time to deliver automated tests were very narrow. We have deployment processes, but they were still manual. So it was a big difficulty to have our systems team to deliver our applications to our developers' boxes and production. And of course, we had a branch strategy in place. So we have the main branch. Now I'm talking about source control. And here I'm going to do something that testers usually don't do. I'm going to assume things. So I am assuming that everyone knows what is a source control and what is a branching strategy. So what do we want? All of those things and the fact that we are always growing and we have a lot of teams working make that some problems arises. And what we do to counter that, it's a little bit of the story that I'm going to tell today. And what we want to do, and we have to visualize our objective, our goal, is basically have fast delivery. So we have to be faster and faster to deliver our products. We want to have confidence on those products, on our deliveries. And basically, we want boring release. We don't want a release be a big event on the company. We want it to be like usual business, nothing to be scared about. So what do we want? Better software. When? Continuously. What is then continuous integration? What do we need to reach it? Basically, we have a branching strategy, but continuous integration tells us we don't want branches. So a branching strategy can be, we have a main branch, we have a dev branch, we create features above it. We need to merge it back to dev. We need to merge it back to main, and then we have a release candidate. And this, with a lot of teams touching the code, makes those merges very complex and very time-consuming. So we decided to remove those branches. Of course, to do this, the developer team skipped a bit. Their heart skipped a bit because when I told them that the way will be no branches at all, they told, oh, it will be impossible, this can be done. But then with a little conversation and showing the best value of it and the problem that we had regarding merges will be reduced with this strategy. So to reach this, it's not overnight that we do this. So we need to assure retrocompatibility, because if we launch a new feature, we must assure that the last one is still working. We must have a mechanism to have the new features that are always coming to the main branch on or off, because if we want to release a new release candidate and the development of the new feature is not ready, we want to deliver it off, because we don't want the user to see it. And this is not a thing that we, as I say, do overnight. So we discussed with the development teams. We came up with a strategy, and we ended up removing all the branches. Although the middle step that we did was first we removed the dev branch, and we still had features rising from main because the feature toggles were not yet ready to be used. So this is our way around this small problem. Of course, if none of this works and you want to go this way, you can try to make the macho developer arises, and you tell them, "Come on, real programmers commit some master." That's usual. Another thing that we need to assure is that everything is in the source control, because we want to be able to deploy in N in X environments. So we need everything in source control, including configuration and database scripts. This will allow us to have it always available for all the environments, and it's something that is versionable. It's very important to have a version, because we can then, when you have a version, come with a strategy that is when we are going to run those scripts related to the database scripts, we can make a difference. We can make a difference between what is run. We can do, having the versions, we can do, or we run all the scripts at once, or if we have like version 2, and we have 5 versions on the source control, we can run only the 3, 4, and 5, because the system already knows that we have the other version there. Of course, if we have a lot of scripts there, what happens is the owners of the scripts become very only about the scripts, and sometimes we get things like this. So if someone messed with my scripts, I will kill him. Basically, it's what happens in the real life. Another thing that we need to assure is the code that we develop must run in multiple environments and not only on my machine. The works on my machine is not a thing that we can say anymore, because we are enabling the developers to do builds remotely and to deploy remotely and to validate things remotely, and the code must be ready for that. So things like this cannot happen, or else the answer will be, well, pack your machine, we're going to send to production, because it's the only machine where it runs. The other things that we need to assure is for continuous integration, we need to have continuously the code send it to the main branch, but we need a way where we automatically deploy it and automatically test it. Because if we have more and more builds, and if we don't have the way to validate them, it won't serve us for nothing, because we are always producing code and we are not trusting that anything will be, we won't trust what we send. So here we have 2 things that we need to do. Product owners and for teams that are not used to produce automated tests, it will be another task to do in the sprint. So it's another thing to do in the sprint, and the product owners are very cautious in adding things to the sprint. So I think that if we show the value of the automated tests, they understand, but even though we know that in our companies we cannot stop the production of new features to produce automated tests or to restructure our code, we need to accommodate both things and continue to deliver features while we increase our automated tests and restructure whatever we need to do. So our product owners and Agile Scrums are very important here. We need to find allies around the company. We need to find our voices within the teams, because if I'm only a beacon of continuous integration in the company, it will never happen. So one thing is to have automated tests. Another thing is having automated tests that takes 3 days to run. So what advantages it had to me to have automated tests that takes 3 days to run? We don't have that. We must remember we want fast deliveries, so we need fast validations. Because every check-in, we will do these validations, and we can't say to a developer, well, you have to wait 3 days for the next commit to come in before we validate the next commit. So we need to make them as fast as possible, and this can be tricky sometimes. And what we introduce with this continuous integration sometimes, and it's a thing that we are not making tests only anymore. It's not, I'm doing tests, I'm not doing tests. Now it comes with different levels of testing. We are introducing unit tests, we are introducing smoke tests, we're introducing component tests, integration tests, and this is something, it's a mindset that the tester, the quality assurance analyst, the developer must be aware of, because nowadays we create only tests, and this will not serve this purpose anymore, because we will have different stages on the continuous integration pipeline, and those stages will validate the things incrementally. And we will see ahead what is a pipeline, but bear in mind that we have different types of tests, and now it's not only a matter of I'm going to do a test to validate this, but more, does it make sense to have a smoke test here? Do I want to have all the types of tests for this feature, or only 1 or 2 is enough to perform the validation that we need here? Another thing, and when we have even more and more environments where we deploy to, we need to have automated deploys, or else we need to have systems or an IT team enormous, because if every team requests an update on what we call their dev boxes and in production, and we have hotfixes to install, and more releases are coming, the IT crew will not be able to cope with every request. So we need to implement automatic deploys. Again, this is not something that we can do alone. We have to have the developers involved. We need to have the IT involved. And here comes another big buzzword, that is DevOps. We need to nurture DevOps here, because developers are the ones that know how their code is going to be deployed. But IT teams are the ones that care about the environments where they're going to be deployed. So these joint forces will make that the software is deployed in a way that is repeatedly done. It is automatic, and it doesn't require manual intervention. So all of this is fine, but when we have a lot of stages where we install a lot of software and we did a lot of tests, if one of them fails and we take like 2 days to understand why it has failed, we are failing with our continuous integration system, because we are taking more time to understand why it has failed than the time to run it again. So we need to have meaningful logging, and here, again, the developers, the team, must come around and understand what is meaningful logging, because no logging is bad, but a lot of logging is also bad, because if I have 2,000 lines to look at and I can extract anything from it, it won't serve my purpose in this time also. So, and to build all of this, what you need to have, and what we call it's a continuous integration orchestrator. It's a software that will bring it all together. All the tools that we use, all the process that we want to start, are all bring it together by this continuous integration orchestrator. We have a lot of software available here. Jenkins is probably the most used. And basically what it does is where everything is concentrated. So Jenkins, if we spoke about Jenkins, will be the one that have all in the same software. So the jobs are run in Jenkins, the automated deploys are run in Jenkins, the tests are run in Jenkins, the results are there. So the team knows that if something fails, they go to Jenkins, they see the states of the deployments, the tests, the builds, and they understand with everything in one place, easy to find, easy to maintain. Because if we give too much freedom, what will happen is every team will have their solution to do this, and then it will be difficult to maintain. And with this Jenkins, or with this continuous integration orchestrator, we'll have staging pipelines. So pipelines, it's nothing more a visual way to understand what is happening on the sequence of deployment and tests that we are defining for our application. So one example of this is basically something like this, where we have the build is deployed to one environment, and we have the status with green or red or yellow, depending on what you have defined. And we run tests, and we deploy to the next, and we run a different type of tests until what you think that it's fit for your process and for your applications. For sometimes we need to have like a gate state where we don't want to go to production until we perform some exploratory testing, and after that we can promote it to live. So this is what the promote is there too. And all of this sums up here, because if we take the tests that we run in the first quality assurance environment, and it takes 1 hour to do, and we're going to multiply this by 3, what happens is we have a pipeline that takes 3 hours to run, and we have like commits every 15 minutes. So this will not cope with our objective. We need to have a fast pipeline that responds with the needs of the developers, of the team. And this is something new. This is something that the team must own. The team must look at the pipeline as their own, not of the release managers, not of the guys of the quality, because the tests are failing. The team must look at this pipeline as their own, and if something is wrong, everyone must look at it and make it right. Because if something is wrong, we don't have a build to promote to live. So this can create also a culture of fear, because sometimes developers are afraid to break the build. But they can't look at it as a thing that is bad, because if we have this in place, of course, we have to take care. Stupidity can happen, but this is another tool to prevent. This is here to fail fast. So, of course, this is something that we need to work. But don't see this as someone that is pointing a finger to you and saying, oh, you're breaking the build, bastard. You can do this. It's not that case it's not that case at all. This is another tool that the teams must use to increase the process and to work even faster and with the tools that they need. Some other things that we use other than these changes that continuous integration tells us to do, sometimes the mindset is difficult to change. And to do this, sometimes we have to go around and do things with the team that are not by the book. So one thing that we think is very helpful is to do a pilot with a team. So instead of trying to implement this with all of your teams, take a new team, a team with a recent project, something new, where you can apply all of these things pretty easily, and then let them try, I don't know, for a period of time, and then let them tell their peers how it went, what went better, and what is the most value that you can take of this. Because one thing is listen a tester, something outside, an outsider saying this is good, this is great, listen to this conference and this is great. But after trying it and seeing this is really good, persons will trust the ones that work with them. So one thing you cannot forget is finding allies. Again, I cannot be the only beacon of continuous integration. I must have allies in all of the departments. I must have product owners that believe in it. I must have DevOps. I must have systems. I must have everyone believing in it and spreading the word. And we cannot let pass some small things like another day, a developer came to me and says, by the way, I'm from the automation team. The purpose of this team is not to produce automated tests, but is to produce tools that help the teams producing automated tests. But they came to me and the pipeline was failing, and they say to me, well, your tests are failing. I don't know why, what to do with that. And this is a good opportunity to evangelize them again, because the tests are not from the automation team. The tests are from the team, are a responsibility of the team, and they must be able to solve it themselves. Again, another strategy that we did, and because Farfetch is not properly a startup, because we already suffered several enhancements on our process, it's created teams that are responsible for what we call the backbone, the structure. We created 3 teams, automation teams, performance and security, that are not responsible for each of those matters, but are responsible for creating the backbone for all the teams. So all the teams created the tests the same way, but the tests that they want, with support of the tools that we produce on these teams. And this is helpful for maintainability, because if we let every team do the tests they want, the security and performance and automated tests they want, they will choose different tools, they will choose different approaches, and then when we change teams, it's difficult to cope with that changes and to maintain that code everywhere. So the backbone being the same is a good approach. And never forget to evangelize. Like I say, this is a big mindset change. So don't expect everyone to understand it. And they say, oh yeah, it's great, I understand. But then they go back to their place and they do nothing about it, because they are used to the things, do the things like they do usually. And they are used to the problems that are coming. So if the problem is the one that I'm used to, I know how to deal with it. But if I change, new things may appear, and they may be afraid to change because of that. But all of these tools, all of this process is here to help making the change and help support the change. So continuous integration is good, but don't forget, we don't going to do it overnight, and we don't going to do it alone. So the team, the company must be ready for it. The mindset, maturity of the persons must be ready for it. And the maturity here, it's also something important, because I have a son, like a 2-year son, and the example I say about maturity and learning in the process is, I have a oven that is pretty hot, and I tell my son, don't touch it because it's hot. And he don't go there because I tell them so. But if I'm not there, he will do it again. So one day, I didn't tell him to don't touch it, and he touched it. So he burned his hand. And guess what? He never went there again. So sometimes, and Sergio Oliveira talks about that in the pinball leadership thing, we must give the tools to the team, but let them progress on their way. And if sometimes we need to let them, like we say in Portuguese, bater com a cabeça, we must let them bater com a cabeça to learn, and then they will value what we are saying, and they will accommodate the change. Well, this is pretty much, this is pretty much it. I don't know. I hope that it was not critical. If anyone is sleeping, I think not. Well, the biggest thing that we can take from here, it's something that I hear in other conferences. If we steal something from this presentation, I will be very happy to do so. So thank you.